Positional rankings are back, guys, and we're going to break down my top 10 cornerbacks. Who is at number one? Nate Wiggins from Clemson. Why is that? I'll tell you next on the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our every single day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a national scout and a senior draft analyst. And I got to kick this introduction over to my guy, Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at TheTalentCode. Can you talk to him, baby?
What's up, Locked On family? This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ with those LSU Tigers, man. And the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, where we talk everything college football, we talk everything NFL football, because what it all starts with the NFL Draft, man. So I want to say shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in, man. And I want to shout out our first timers, right? Because we see this YouTube channel is growing. Draft season is kicked off. We have some new listeners. I want to say thank you for tapping in with us. Man, listen, DP, we said we're talking about top 10 cornerbacks, right? We have Josh Allen, we have Patrick Mahomes, we have Lamar Jackson, we have Brock Purdy, we have Justin Herbert. All of these quarterbacks throwing the football all over the field. We need some defenders to stop them, right? So we're going to talk about the top 10 cornerbacks. We're talking about draft prospects. So we're going to get into that list from DP. This is his top 10 list. I'm going to be a little critical. I'm going to jump in there and I'm going to ask some questions, man. We're going to have some fun with this thing. But DP, before we get started, man, why don't you hit them with our title sponsor?
This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. All right, Keith, you said you're going to be critical, right? You know,
yeah, I'm critical. We're going to have this conversation.
You know what I'm saying? But we're going to talk about it, right? My top 10 cornerbacks, just my initial rankings right now. And like we do, you know, I went a little bit too far down, but we're gonna go one through 4. Number one, Nate Wiggins. We kind of talked about him, you know, about a month or so ago when we did this or that, him or Kool-aid, and I stuck with Nate Wiggins as my highest graded corner as of right now. And number 2, Terrion Arnold jumps Kool-aid McKinstry. Terrion Arnold, cornerback out of Alabama. Number 3, Kool-aid McKinstry, the other cornerback out of Alabama. And number 4, Cooper DeJean, cornerback out of Iowa. Keith, where do you want to start here inside this top 4?
DP, my job is not done, man. My job is not done. And I thought I did my job, right? And what I thought I successfully did was to convince you that either or one of these Alabama cornerbacks, right? And I was hoping that it was Terrion Arnold because we did the this or that segment, right? And you chose Kool-aid McKinstry versus Nate Wiggins. But I was hoping that Terrion Arnold's steam, right? I know you checked out the film. I know you got excited. It was like, you know, I really like this guy. I thought my work was done as far as convincing you that he was CB1. But I see with the list, DP, you unveiling the list. I see with the list. My work yet is not done, but that's okay. It's only late January, DP. It's only late January. I'm keep working at it. But, man, I want to ask you this because we did a this or that segment with Nate Wiggins versus Kool-aid McKinstry. You chose Nate. You explained that. Nate Wiggins versus Terrion Arnold. I'm going to ask you why Nate over Terrion.
I think the size and the size, length, the body type for me is what really gets me with him, you know, out of these two guys. Because I think about, like I said, watching Nate over his career, watch him go up against a lot of bigger body, you know, some of those bigger body receivers. We watched him against the 6'7" Johnny Wilson. I remember watching him in the summer from 2020 and how well he handled Johnny Wilson, how well he handled Keon Coleman when it was kind of playing the ball in the air. And I think those two type of guys, I think Terrion will be able to stick with them and be in the hip pocket, but I think he could ultimately lose at the catch point. So for me, at the catch point, I prefer Nate Wiggins. I think Terrion, I think he might have the better hands out of the two. Both of them will break passes up, but for me, it was like with Nate Wiggins, both of them really good athletes. Terrion Arnold, maybe the best mover in terms of change of direction, footwork, hips, everything. But I think the size played a big factor for me and for Nate Wiggins, just watching him battle with those guys that I'm expecting him to have to see at the next level. The Darren Wallers when he goes out wide and plays big wide receiver, right? Like even the Travis Kelce, because I've seen Nate Wiggins guard some tight ends as well. He covers a multitude of guys where I think with Terrion Arnold, the size may limit him in that regard just a little bit.
Yeah, I want to ask you real quick when we wrap up the Nate Wiggins part of this. Who was a good comp for Nate Wiggins in your eyes? Because obviously you're going to get the AJ Terrell comp, but I don't think that's the perfect comp for him, right? But he's going to be a highly rated cornerback, highly drafted guy coming out of Clemson. Everybody's going to want to throw that name around, but I don't necessarily know if that's the name that I particularly like with him. So when you just give a comp, do you have an NFL comp for him?
It's crazy, Keith, because I typically always try to think of a comp when I'm watching a guy. I have not thought about that for Nate Wiggins for whatever reason. Like I have not thought about it, but I'm definitely gonna rack my brain on that because cornerbacks is sometimes difficult to comp because it's like you got to think about body types, like skill wise stuff like that. But I got to think about that one. I'm not going.
All right, cool. Well, now we could keep going. You're talking about 2 and 3, right? And this is kind of a rare situation where you have two cornerbacks from the same school, talking about Alabama, right? Terrion Arnold, Kool-aid, McKinstry, both. At this point, I feel like Terrion is not a hidden gem anymore. Everybody's on him, right? Like everybody's jumped on. Be. Right. Everybody's jumped onto the bandwagon. So you could potentially have two first-round corners come from the same exact school. What was splitting differences with Terrion Arnold and Kool-aid McKinstry as far as ranking Terrion at 2 and the Kool-aid at 3?
Man, I think the pure cover skills for me goes to Terrion, right? And I feel like Terrion also plays the ball better in the air, even though Kool-aid, I think when we talked about it, I said, man, I feel like Kool-aid looks taller and it looks like he has longer arms than Terrion, but I feel like Terrion plays bigger than Kool-aid, if that makes sense. So and then like I said, the pure coverage ability, the pure athleticism, agility, everything. I think when his trainer, somebody dropped a clip of him, training and just working on the stuff you're going to see him do at the combine, right? The W drill and all that type, like the way he can flip his hips and move and turn. And then I think Kool-aid's good in the run game too. But again, Terrion plays with a little bit more oomph, in my opinion, than Kool-aid, even though I think Kool-aid's a bigger guy.
Yeah, I agree with that. Then to wrap this up, man, you have Cooper DeJean out of Iowa at cornerback 4. And just with that conversation, some people still want to know who is Cooper, right? Like, and I know he profiles right around 6 foot, 6'1"ish. But being cornerback 4, you're probably still a potential first-round pick, right? I think you can kind of say that. So where do you see him going? What type of situation you think fits best for Cooper DeJean?
Man, for Cooper, I think he's going to be really good. I mean, I know a lot of people, Keith, have they've labeled this young man a safety, right? And they're like, yeah, he's playing safety. And I'm like, not for me. I don't need him to. You know what I mean? Like, I absolutely feel comfortable at 6'1", 207. Like, and he's a straight line. He's a good straight line athlete. Man to man, he's going to be more of a big body matchup guy, right? You want to match him against the Cortland Suttons. You want to match him up against some of these bigger frame wide receivers who's not the twitchiest or most explosive. But in most coverage situations, I'm putting him in cover 3. You know what I mean? I want his back to the sideline. I want his eyes forward, reading the action that's in front of him, and watch him click and close. And then he makes plays on the football. He's a reliable tackler as well. High instincts, strong, athletic. Putting him in man may not be the best thing all game. It's going to be more situational based. But when I watch him, man, this is a really good football player. And like I said, again, he may be built like a safety. You say, hey, I love him as a strong safety. Put him in the box. Man, let him play corner. Put him in cover 3. I also think he can cover some tight ends as well.
Okay, and I agree with you on the tight end part. And I think that'll be the interesting part. And I think also, too, maybe with Cooper, you play him at corner, but then allow him to play some safety also, right? Like just kind of do some hybrid type situations, depending on what the DBs look like for whatever specific team he decides to go to. But DP, I think it's safe to say that's kind of like tier 1-ish, right, of the corners. But I want to jump into tier 2, right, because still valuable guys, and we still have I think this class has a lot of nickels nickel corners in his class, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
playmakers. So I'm interested to see how you rank those guys. So coming up next, man, we about to get into this next tier of cornerbacks.
Passion, drive, patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. All right, Keith. Number 5, I got Toledo cornerback Quinyon Mitchell. At number 6, I have Missouri cornerback Ennis Rakestraw Jr. And at number 7, I have Georgia cornerback Kamari Lassiter, Keith. I like all three of these guys, but Quinyon Mitchell, man, I listen, click and close, ball skills, like athleticism, tough. He competes. Like, I remember watching the tape, and don't get me wrong, Marvin Harrison Jr. had his moments against us. He has his moments against everybody, first off, okay? Like, that's Marvin Harrison Jr. But just to watch him battle and watch him not shy away from that, right? That matchup, that the physicality of a Marvin Harrison Jr. You're talking about getting his hands on him, playing chest to chest, playing physical. But I think this is a guy that you play off coverage. You can play off man. You can play quarters. He could play like a curl of flats, cover 2 corner. The versatility with him is really high for me. Like, he's very versatile in terms of what you can do with him. And like I said, with his ball skills, quarterback's gonna have to be weary when you're really targeting him, because he'll make you pay if the ball is not on time and on place.
Yeah, no, and I want to ask this question because everybody's gonna talk about Toledo and get into the conversation of he's going to the Senior Bowl, right? And my biggest question, and I think it's gonna be a lot of people's question, right? It's gonna be level of competition, right? Playing at Toledo, you playing in the MAC, right? You get the Tuesday night, Wednesday night matchups, right? But people are going to want to see him go up against those elite level athletes, and that's kind of where I'm still at with Quinyon too. I want to see, because he is a different type of build, right? Like, when you look at him, it's not, I guess, your prototypical. He's more the I'm trying to think of like thicker cornerbacks, right? Like your potentially like your Chris Harris's, just some of those old school corners that kind of just thicker throughout.
6
and
foot, like he's like 6 foot, like almost 200 pounds.
Yeah, big guy. So I want to see him just, how he moves, right? How he moves against those elite level corners, and then being able to push him vertically, and then him being able to stay in the hip pocket and stay in phase with him. So that's one thing I'm looking for. But DP, this next guy, and it's disappointing because I'm not sure, how much he'll be participating at the Senior Bowl. But in his Rakestraw, really want to see him. But I've heard a lot of good things about him in the film I've watched. Man, he's that loose, fluid, smooth corner. So him coming at number 6, DP. When we talk about in his Rakestraw.
Yeah, I mean, athletic. I know one of his coaches texted me. He was like, man, definitely check out my guy. And I was like, no. I was like, let me know who he is. And he told me in his Rakestraw. And like you said, smooth, fluid, a guy that could play man. I think he could play zone as well. Listed at 6 foot 188. I think he is nicked up or injured, so he may not play. He may not participate at the Senior Bowl, but a guy that I've been told is going to hit sub 4.4 in the 40. So you're talking about foot speed, you're talking about long speed, ability to mirror and match guys in man-to-man coverage, but also run the foot race with them, right? Stay stride for stride in the sprint. And I think that's where, for me, is like, and he's very much a potential to rise up in this class, right? But I think for me, is the thing that kind of, I guess, like separates is like the ball production. I think out of the last 3 years since 2021, He's battled some injuries, right? If I remember correctly, he only played 4 games in 2021. He played a full 13 in 2022. Only played 9 games this year. But a young man that's very good in coverage, but he doesn't generate a ton of turnovers. So for him to be as sticky as he is, I want to kind of see that's the next evolution for him, right? Being able to make plays at the catch point, make plays on the ball, take the ball away. You know what I mean? Because he can put himself in perfect coverage, perfect position. I just need to see more ball production for him going forward in the NFL.
Yeah, nah, for sure. And DP, I'm gonna ask this. Let's switch this up kind of midstream, mid flow, right? Can we unveil 7, 8, 9, and 10? And the reason is because this last segment, I want to go through the entire list, right? You talked about something as far as guys moving up and moving down. I want to talk about, right, who has the potential to move up and slide down the board in that last segment. So I want to give us some opportunity to talk about that. So DP, we had Ennis Rickstraw at 6, right? Then we went Kamari Lassiter at 7, the cornerback from Georgia. Then you went Kalen King, man, from Penn State. You went with him at 8. Then you went Mike Sanastrell from Michigan, 9, right? The guy that sealed away the national championship. And then you went TJ Tampa from Iowa State. DP, it's one name I want to get into for sure, and that's Mike Sanastrell, right? Because a lot of people have heard this guy. He's been a high profile player for Michigan. And then also, obviously, he had the game sealing interception, right? And then Harbaugh had so many great things to say about him. But we always know that the film could be one conversation versus the media coverage could be another conversation. But I want to talk about Mike Sanastrell. Who is Mike Sanastrell, the player, the draft prospect that a team is going to draft?
Man, you're getting a leader. You're getting a guy that played wide receiver for 2 years, transitioned over into the cornerback position, and has not looked back. Listed at 5'10", 180 pounds. He's going to be a nickel. He plays that nickel. You think about Mike Hilton, who spent time with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who I think now is with the Cincinnati Bengals in the NFL. He comps very, very well and very close to that type of player. We're talking about run fits, tough. He will tackle running backs in space. He does not care. This young man is very tough, gritty, feisty, good, especially off man, zone corner. He will bait quarterbacks in the throws. And this is why I think quarterbacks are going to, if they don't do their homework on him, this isn't your average corner where it's like, the reason he's playing cornerback is he can't catch. No, he's a former wide receiver, so he will take the ball away.
So try him if you want to.
Try him if you want to. He's soft-handed. His IQ, and again, we think about Richard Sherman and his success in the NFL of why it was because he played 2 years, if I remember correctly, at Stanford. His first 2 years was at receiver. He used that knowledge of playing the position as to an advantage when he's playing corner, being able to actually read the receiver, know when the break's coming, know when to break himself. He uses those things, and that's what Mike Sanastrell does as well. Like I said, football instincts, high IQ, a guy that can create turnovers, but he will blitz, he will run fit, he'll do everything, and he's extremely coachable, high character guy, and he's a really good athlete. Because, man, you watch some of his receiver highlights, I really don't know why he switched positions, to be completely honest, because he was a good receiver. But I get it. It's probably because of the fact that Michigan don't throw the ball a lot, so you wasn't going to get drafted where you want to play in that position. But, man, I really like Mike Sanastrell. Like I said, he's probably going to be a pure nickel for a lot of teams. But listen, this is a nickel that will absolutely be a force defender off the edge in the run game as well.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to watch him, DB, because I haven't watched much of him at all. And like I said, have heard a lot about him, but definitely excited to watch him. DP, let's go ahead and transition here. Listen, this is what we're going to do, man. Coming up next, we unveiled the top 10, right? We got the top 10 out the way. Now here come the heavy hitting questions. I'm going to ask DP, why is this guy at 5, right? And this guy at 10? I don't get it. I don't understand it, man. So coming up next, I told you at the top of the show, I was going to be a little bit critical, man. I had to see the list first. I had to see the entire list first. I got the list. So now we're trying to ask some questions and get some conversations going. So coming up next, man, we about to have some fun conversations with DP's top 10 cornerback list.
Guys, we've wrapped up Christmas. We've wrapped up the NFL regular season, but the playoffs are here, which means there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 back in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. All right? New customers can get $150 back in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is super easy to use, and there's so many different ways to bet. like live same game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and make your first bet a layup. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and make your first bet a layup because FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. All right, Keith, what questions you got for me? Because we got the top 10 revealed now.
Yeah, we're gonna start with Kalen King sitting at number 8. DP coming into the season, man. He was fighting for cornerback 1, right? I'm gonna ask you why 8, right? And then not only 8, but what's the opportunity for him to move up?
Man, he did not look like the same guy to me, Keith. Like just watching him in coverage, like he was very sticky in coverage last year. I think he was still a sticky corner this year, but his play kind of tapered off. Like, you know what I mean? In coverage, I didn't see the confidence level from him. He didn't make plays on the ball nearly as much. You know what I mean? Like things just didn't seem, I don't know what happened. Like, you know what I mean? Like he only allowed, like I think in 2022, the passer rating he allowed in coverage was a 48.9. This year it was an 82.4. So like, teams felt more comfortable going at him this year. Where last year it was like, man, like be careful. Like he out there locking stuff down. He's on top of receivers, routes breaks on the play side shoulder. He's right there in the hip pocket. And this year it just felt like I didn't see that as much. And I was disappointed, to be honest with you, because we did have him in that conversation for CB1 coming into the year.
Right. Is this something where, because he's going to be at the Senior Bowl, is this something where a week of practice at the Senior Bowl you think can help elevate their stock? And then how high can he go? Do you think he put the cap on himself at second round at best, or is this a guy that still can get into the first round? Because I just think it's so tough, right? Because part of it when you watched him was because of the athleticism, right, and the explosiveness. I think in this situation of Quinyon Mitchell kind of took where he was, right? I think in that's, just as far as being those, kind of 5'11-ish, 200-poundish type corners that can move, appear to be explosive athletes. So how high can he go even with a good week at the Senior Bowl, in your opinion?
Man, I think a good week at the Senior Bowl could definitely, I would say probably solidify him. And I think the measurements is going to be big for him to see, where he measures in at arm length wise, height wise, stuff like that. I think a good week at the Senior Bowl puts him right around the top of the second round for sure. The back end of the first is going to be tough because I think, at the Senior Bowl, we will see Mike Sainristil, Kalen King, Quinyon Mitchell will also be there. I don't think TJ Tampa's there. I can't remember. Is he there?
Yeah, he's coming. So
he's going to be like, and he's going to look a little different than Kalen King and Sainristil because he's a taller, bigger corner. But I think a good week, being able to, gauge that athleticism, just see him play free. Because I felt like he was thinking a lot when I was watching him on tape. I felt like he was thinking more than he was reacting. And every time you do that, man, it's not a good thing. That's not a good sign when you're out there thinking and not actually playing the game as you normally would. So I want to see him just play confident, Keith. And I think if he does that, play loose, play free, play confident, I think we can see him kind of elevate himself back up. Because I think right now people probably have him definitely day 2. I don't think he's even around that day 1 range at this time right now.
Yeah, no, and that's definitely crazy. Just like you said, where he was coming into this year. But DP, a guy we haven't talked about, Kamari Lassiter, man, sitting at cornerback 7 for you. And this is a name that I've heard all over the place, right? Talking about 2nd, 3rd round, 6th round. Where are you comfortable drafting Kamari Lassiter, the player?
I'm definitely comfortable with him, 2nd round, Keith. Listed at 6 foot,
2nd round,
180 pounds. Yeah, 2nd round for me, I think is a good spot. I want this is a tough. He plays for Georgia, all right. So it's whatever. He's tough. He's tough. Right? He triggers downhill. I remember watching him against he battled with Xavier Leggett. One of our favorite receivers when Georgia faced South Carolina. And I remember they threw like a smoke screen to Leggett, and he blew Leggett up. And it's like I said, 6 foot 186 versus 6'1", 225. You know what I mean? Different body types, but you're talking about closing downhill. I think he's a willing run defender, but he showcases he's got some physicality mid-stem to kind of throw off timing with receivers, knows how to use his hands to kind of reroute guys, you know, without getting the, you know, in the NFL, they legal contact flag. He's got some savviness to him where he's not grabbing and pulling and, you know, things of that nature. But I really like what I've seen from him, Keith. I'm working on his scouting report this week as well over at the Draft Network. This is a guy I think the combine is going to be big for him, testing, you know, measuring in and everything. But I think he's a player that gives you inside-outside versatility as well, that can go man-to-man in as a nickel, but also out wide.
All right, well, DP, look, I got 2 questions for you, man, as we wrap up this show. Cornerback that's in the top 5 that could have the biggest fall. Cornerback in your bottom 4 that could have the biggest elevation.
Man, cornerback in my top 5 that could have the biggest fall. I would say Quinyon Mitchell. Okay. I think that the Senior Bowl is going to be big for him. You know what I mean? Because if he, with the guys that we've named, right? Mike Sanderstill, Kalen King, TJ Tampa, with those guys being there also, if he doesn't go out there and play the way he did on tape, I think that could hurt him. You know what I mean? I think that could hurt him. It could drop his stock down. And the guy that, you know, at bottom 4 that has the most to gain or can rise, I think it's TJ Tampa, Keith. At 6'2", so? 200 pounds.
See, that's what we
athletic guy.
DP, we started this show on 2 different levels. We ended the show on 2 different levels. I don't know. I'm not sure if I see it yet, DP. I'm not sure if I see it yet.
For those teams, Keith, that want to play, the one-on-ones for him are going to be pivotal because I view him as more of a cover 3 side saddle type corner. But, man, if he can go out there, get in those one-on-ones against these talented receivers that we're going to see down in Mobile and handle not just the big guys, but handle those smaller guys in one-on-ones and man-to-man coverage, showcase more hip fluidity and transitional fluidness. I'm just saying, height, weight, arm length, speed, if he shows those, you know, those things that we want to see in man-to-man coverage, I think he can raise his draft stock big time.
Okay, well, there we have it, man. Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up another episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. Man, I told you we talk everything college football, NFL football, and all starts with the NFL draft, man. I want to say shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day as this YouTube channel is growing, as this entire community is growing with our everydayers. I want to say thank you. Tell a friend that this is the best draft content out there. Listen, man, I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there, that is my co-host, man, Damian Parson, man. DP_NFL is where you can find him on X. And like we always like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to the podcast to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Listen, guys, we have so much more coming up. All right, so much more coming up this week. So we're getting more and more into the Senior Bowl. And then, Keith, you know, in a couple of days, we're going to have your quarterback rankings. So we're going to get into that and everything as well. So, guys, stay tuned and come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.